Hello, everyone. Happy, what the hell day is it? Thursday? It is actually nice out. The sun came out today. Thank God. So, today I wanted to talk to you in the car because I'm working late tonight and I didn't want to not post a video about being promiscuous, being slutty, sleeping around. I already checked with Mark, so if you're watching this, I've run this past him and checked on the disrespect level, what might not be okay to talk about, whatever. Actually, I didn't want to talk so much about promiscuous encounters as much as what they meant, what they did for me, when they happened, when they started, and when they stopped. So, just a caveat, this isn't a moral issue that I'm talking about here. I'm not saying what people should or shouldn't do as far as their private sexual lives, as far as how many partners they have, how many people are involved in their relationship, none of it. I'm talking about what people actually do and what I actually did. So I'm trying to have this with a judgment-free type zone, though it's YouTube, that's really, really impossible. And obviously, in case you haven't been paying attention, I'm gay as a picnic basket, so these stories involve two men. But feelings is feelings, peoples is people, so there you go. I didn't come out until I was 18 and a few months old. And I got right into a relationship with the first guy who ever, paid me the first bit of attention. And came out within that relationship. So I wasn't too active right at the beginning. When that relationship ended, and it only ended like 6 months after it started, I then began to sow my wild oats. And a lot of that was just finding out what I liked and finding out what I didn't. And I would develop crushes in a heartbeat. It was like I started my whole identity over again. So I was carrying on about boys the way that maybe 13-year-old, 14-year-old, women or men might carry on about their crushes. Everything was dramatic, everything was big, everything was the end of the world, whatever. Living in Scranton, and then I moved to Philadelphia. I remember within the first week or two of moving to Philadelphia, I lined up 3 dates in 1 week. Really, really quickly. I just blossomed. And I was, I don't know, thinking that was what was proof that I was on the market. It proved that I was single and ready to mingle, that I could do better than the previous relationship that I was in, that I was attractive on the market. So one of those guys I get into a relationship with, and that goes on for like another 6-7 months. And then that breaks up. In between relationships, I would have what I used to deem slut phases. And during the slut phases, I would be quite active. And usually that activity, because I was underage, I was under 21, and I would still sneak into bars periodically, but by and large, and technology wasn't what it was today. I mean, this is the year 2000, 2001, when I'm describing what was going on. I would usually meet guys still online. There was still chat rooms. There were no apps or anything like that. But I would go online. Usually, when it really, really started and it was really, really big, I was subletting a place with some friends in downtown Philly over one summer. And it was kind of a party house, kind of not really. I'd go to work, come home, crack open a beer, and sit on my friend's computer and start hunting, prowling. And I told myself I was kind of taking advantage of the fact that I was young and downtown. And when I grew up in Scranton and then came out and I was up here for my first year of college, hooking up and meeting people was different because everything's really far apart. It's like a city, if you want to call it that, and it's rural all around. So if you want to go meet somebody for a casual meetup, you've got to like pack a cooler and get ready to go drive because it could be like 45 minutes. In a city, people are like 3-4 blocks away. And the convenience of it was doing something for me. And I was really willing to throw my body around willy-nilly for really small potatoes. I'll give you an example of how poorly I treated myself. I would go onto Craigslist, which you could still post ads on up until very recently, or into a chat room, and because I would be drinking, alcoholism started early for me. I didn't cross the 0 barrier till 5 years later, but it started early. I'd get drunk, go online, and say, anybody who has a drink and central air, because it was summer and it was hot as hell in that loft, I will come over and do what you like. Now, a sane, normal person with a healthy relationship with themselves and respect for themselves would probably not do that. I would not do that. I'll say that. Other people can do what they like. But for me, that was not something I would later do. So I threw myself around quite casually and really sowed my wild oats, having multiple partners per week. I was as responsible and safe as a person could be, having that many partners. But nevertheless, it was a high volume crowd. And I would always go to the other person's place. I would never bring someone home. It was like the old thing with dogs, you don't shit where you eat. So that was that. I then got into a relationship, another long-term, semi-long-term, it was like a year, and I lived with the person. Then we broke up. Now, during the course of that relationship and most of my relationships, I would gain weight. I was hovering around like 165 through most of college. I would get up to like 190, almost 200 in some of these relationships. And when I would get out of a relationship, the first thing I would do is go on a diet, because I've got to be thin. I'm back on the market now. No one wants a fat guy. And I would crash diet, absolutely crash diet. And after this long relationship I was in where I was living with a guy around 2003 or so, I crashed back into a severe bout of restricting. I mean, I lost 40 pounds in about 3 months, and it was the lowest weight I had been as an adult. I was just under 150, and I thought I looked like $1,000,000. And what reaffirmed that is that now I was turning heads. Now I was turning the boys' heads. I'd go out, and I'd have a running jacket on, and you could see my ribs if I pulled my shirt up, and I still had hair at the time. It was just starting to really, really fall out. And I thought, great, And I would go out and try to find what I thought was the most objectively attractive person at a club, at a bar, wherever, and try to hook up with them, seduce them, whatever. And it wasn't, a little bit was ego, but also part of it was, I thought if I was getting with attractive people, that meant that I was attractive too, because I didn't really believe I was. The years of being fat did their damage. I felt like I'm a smart guy. I have a nice personality. Depends who you ask, of course. But I'm not attractive. I'm not a good-looking person. But it proves that I am if someone who's attractive is willing to sleep with me. So I did, and I did it for a little while. And then after about 6 months, got into another relationship. And that's the one where I got into it with the alcoholic and then, ended up moving home. What ended the casual encounters was that when I moved home, there was fewer of them. And I was, of course, gaining weight, because when I was in a city, everyone was thinner, and then I moved back to Northeast PA, and everyone's just kind of heavier, so it blended in when I gained some weight. I know it sounds weird, but everyone's just a little thicker. And so nobody noticed too much when I gained weight. But I would still try to drink and go out. Now, it's harder. At the time, I had a boundary about drinking and driving, so I wouldn't drink and then go out and drive. And the closest gay bar to my parents' house where I was living was 40 minutes away. So what ended it is that I was starting to not try to find attractive guys that would prove that I was attractive to sleep with. I would find any guy at all, because it wasn't even to satisfy my own needs sexually. It was to satisfy my emotional needs, that I was worthy of being with someone, that someone found me desirable, that I was worthy of attention in that way, that I wasn't perpetually going to be single for the rest of my life, that I was lovable, all that stuff, all of that stuff. And it culminated into one night I drove to a bar and met a guy who, I wasn't meeting him there because we chatted online, but we had chatted online. And I got drunk at the bar, so did he. I left my car there and we went back to his place, had a few more drinks. I either passed out or blacked out, and woke up and I had been sexually assaulted. Rape seems like such a grand word, but that's probably close to what happened. I did a video about that. I don't really want to rehash it, but I'll put a card up here. If you can't see cards on your device, you can go back in the videos. It's hashtagged why I didn't report. That was a lot of going on at the time. And that kind of dead-ended it. And after that encounter, my drinking escalated. I gained 40 pounds. I was well into the 200s, and it kind of ended everything after that. From that point on, I just had crushes from afar and, became friends with people, but I didn't my preference to be people at arm's length increased after that. So that's kind of where my sleeping around ended. But what it served me over all that time was it was proof of something. It proved that I was attractive. It proved that I was lovable. It proved that I could be desired by another person, because I never felt like any of those things. There would be little fleeting emotional moments, and the only times they would happen would be like this. Meet a stranger at a bar, take them home. They reek of tequila, I reek of gin and tonic. Bombay if it was a good night. You do whatever, you're both laying in bed. And sometimes you snuggle, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you kiss, sometimes you don't. It's like hooker sex when you're sleeping with people that you barely know. But if you are cuddling, sometimes you lose yourself in the moment and you're pretending there's someone you love, or that someone who you wish loved you. And maybe they're doing the same and you have a tender moment. And then reality crashes back and you have to either throw them out or they're throwing you out because you don't know this person and you're not letting them stay in your house. So it would have these fleeting moments of fantasy, but it was all fantasy. It was not reality. It was just grasping at straws. So those were my sexual escapades. I know some people have a lot of fun doing it, and they have relationships where they have an open dialogue and they do those things. And it's an evolving discussion, I know, for a lot of people, but for me, it was not anything that was fun in hindsight. Sometimes it was fun. I mean, I guess I shouldn't lie. Sometimes it was fun. Sometimes it was kind of arousing. But by the end, it was just desperate, lonely sex. So that's my history of being promiscuous. Certainly there's more to it, but in a hot car on a sunny day, I'm going to cut it right there. So thank you for watching. Please do subscribe and give us a thumbs up. You can follow Mark and I on Instagram at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc. Get the alerts too, hit the bell so you know a new video's coming. We do one about every day. And I will catch up with y'all soon. Bye.